Hey, this is Ciderhelm. In this guide I'm going to show you how to prepare Mama Ciderhelm's world famous mac and cheese. Have you ever had bacon or hot dogs added to your mac and cheese? Do you add Tabasco sauce or other sauces to your mac and cheese? Is your mac and cheese bland and tasteless? Most recipes I've tried are like this. The problem with most recipes is that their flavor comes from things added to the recipe, when the flavor really needs to come from the cheese itself. Let's get into ingredients. We'll need 2 pounds of pasta. I choose shells since I do a good job of capturing sauce, have good surface area, and create a nice texture. I also like rigatoni and falafel as well, and of course traditional macaroni noodles are fine. We'll also want 1 pound of sharp cheddar. If you have access to Tillamook, it is the best brand I've used. Going with mild cheddar will cause a blander sauce, and going with extra sharp cheddar will cause a funky taste and some issues with sauce texture. You'll also need a stick of butter, some low-fat milk, salt, water, and 1 cup of flour. For preparation, you'll need a plate, a knife, a fork, a spatula, a cooking pan, a pot, a strainer, and a baking pan. If possible, you'll want to use non-stick versions of everything, as it will make cleaning up dramatically easier. And of course, you'll want a stove, and if you want to bake it, an oven as well. To start out, we want to put water on the stove. I've added a couple pinches of salt to the water, but not much. The water should take a while to get to boiling. Before going any further with the recipe, I'm going to go ahead and break the cheese down into manageable chunks. This will make preparing the sauce much easier because we'll be managing a few different things at once when we need to worry about adding the cheese, and this way we don't have to worry about it then. To start the sauce, I'll need some butter. While the recipe normally requires a stick of butter, I'm going to keep this much healthier by using less than the full stick. By the way, we're using the Polydine cookware for this recipe. We want to start the sauce by adding our butter to the pan and starting to melt it at a very low temperature. As it melts, we want to add flour in. As it's been a while since I've made this, I started by using the spatula, though it turns out it's better to just use the fork at this stage as long as you're careful not to scratch up the bottom of your cookware. The goal with the butter and flour is to create a nice paste. With 1 stick of butter, we're going to use about 1 cup of flour to create this paste. This is ultimately what is going to give this sauce the consistency we need, and it can be the longest step to get it just right. Be careful to keep the pan temperature low so you don't burn any of the paste. Once we have a happy paste, we're going to add in our milk. I don't have a measurement for this, but as you can see, it's a little above the base of the handle on a full gallon. I understand a lot of you guys don't have gallons shaped like this, so if anyone can give me a rough guess on how large this is, I'll add it to the video for others to use. At this point, I would normally turn the heat up and wait for the milk to boil while stirring with the spatula to keep any of the paste from burning. However, in this video, I go ahead and add the cheese immediately. At this point, I need to be constantly stirring. Once the water has reached a boil, I'm going to add in the pasta. As with most pastas, you'll want to immediately stir the pasta after you add it to the water to prevent clumping, and continue stirring it occasionally. I've moved the sauce to the larger back burner, though in hindsight I should have started there to get the sauce ready a little sooner. Once the sauce starts to have a coherent, cheesy consistency, I'm going to add in a half handful of salt, quite a bit of salt, to the sauce. When I taste the sauce, it should be very, very salty at this stage, but understand that the salty taste should bake out while the mac and cheese is in the oven. This is completely necessary to bringing out the flavor of the cheese. That said, it is entirely possible to put too much salt in, so be careful. Also, it isn't going to be necessary to bake our final product if you don't like crispy mac and cheese. If this is the case, you'll want to put a little less salt in than I'm recommending. As the sauce thickens, I'll be checking the pasta occasionally to see when it's the right firmness. What I'm looking for is al dente, or slightly firm pasta. Keep in mind that pasta continues to cook after it has been strained, so you want it to still have some firmness, or you'll wind up with soggy noodles, which are always the worst. At some point during all of this, we'll want to start preheating our oven. Though I turned it on to 350 degrees in this video, I actually want to change that to 415 degrees to help me get exactly the crisp I want. Once our sauce is to a very nice consistency, our noodles should be ready to go as well. We're going to add the noodles back to the boiling pot and pour the cheese sauce over the top, then mix them together. Once we're done mixing them together, we'll go ahead and add them to the pan. You can either be done here if you want a delicious mac and cheese without the crisp, or we can take the next step and cook it. You'll want to check on it every 15 minutes or so in the oven until it gets a nice crisp. Glass pans are nice because you can see the edges, which is where the best crisp is always going to be. Thanks for watching, and I sincerely hope you enjoy the recipe. Let me know how you like it.